Hope Channel, changing lives.
Good evening and welcome to Family Life. Of course, Mrs. Betty Adom is not here, and so I'm sitting in for her. I may not be able to fill her shoes, but I promise that we would do a very good program. Today we are looking at a very interesting topic, the ego, and how it plays out in relationships, and how it can hurt or help your relationship. To help us do this discussion is Dr. Josiah Andor. He's a very familiar face on this program, so he doesn't need much introduction. So Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And then Mrs. Lydia Bediakwasari, a banker, and the two of them would help us to do this discussion. Remember, you're on Hope Channel, the preferred Christian station, and we always bring you the best. Family Life, the goal is to help improve your family, make it the best that it can be. So call friends. If you're watching on social media platforms, you can join the discussion by putting a comment, or if you're watching on TV and you want to send in a comment or a question, our line is 055-968-0066. So welcome to the show, Family Life. Let's start off with this definition, and I want to put out that we are not going to psychoanalysis, and so this discussion, we are taking ego from the simplest explanation that we have, the everyday usage of it. So if you're an expert out there, don't be too hard on us. So let's start off with what we mean by an ego. What is it?
All right. I think you've already issued a disclaimer that we are not talking about, we are not going into deep psychology.
Exactly.
No. But I mean, generally, it is a term that we have heard used over and over. But whereas we are not going into the psychology, because I am a biblicist, I may want to take it up from the very, etymology of the word. The Greek word for I is ego, and so if I am talking about I use the word ego, and it is actually from that concept, I mean that word, that the concept is driven from. So when we talk about ego, we are actually talking about self. I mean, so in this sense, and the fact that we are looking at ego in relationships, we are actually looking at your view of yourself and how that view of yourself affects your relationship with others, either in marital relationship, premarital relationship, working relationship, or any forms of relationship.
Okay.
Okay. Since Doc, given the in-depth explanations, I don't even know what to say, but I would simply say it's your conscious identity of self. Okay, this is how you see yourself, and this is how you want to behave with that self, simply put.
Okay, so it's the me, myself, and
me,
I.
myself, and I.
Okay, so normally how does it manifest? Is it only when I'm like, as for me, and I talk about myself? How does it manifest? When we say somebody has an ego, what are we talking about?
All right. So, so we've just given the very basic definition, talking about you, the way you see yourself. And everybody has the way he or she sees himself. And so, more or less, we can say by this that everybody has an ego.
Exactly.
Everybody has the me, everybody has the I, everybody has the myself. We start, is it primary 1 or 2, wherever it was, writing about myself. So, okay, my name is this, I have a big head, I have this and all that. So you are describing yourself. And people actually have an idea of who they are. There are people whose idea of who they are is negative. And it's because of the experiences that they have been through. there are people whose idea of who they are is positive, also probably because of their experiences, and sometimes probably because of a certain complex, I mean, superiority complex. And these are, you know, the aspects that actually would make us say this person has an ego. And anytime we use that this person has an ego, we are normally using it in the negative sense, to say that the person has a sense of pride. Okay, so you are egocentric, or you are egoistic. I mean, we use all those terms, and we are saying that this person is so full of himself. In other words, this person has a certain image of himself. She has an image of herself that is probably not even real, but it's like the person is wearing a shoe bigger than him, or wearing a dress bigger than him, or trying to put himself or herself in a position that the person does not qualify to be in. And so we say this person has an ego. And so that is, I mean, but your question was how it manifests. It manifests in, normally the manifestation of ego happens in the way we relate with others. I mean, that is to say, all right, so I am a husband, and because I am a husband, I think that by virtue of being a husband, I should be lord over my wife. By virtue of being a husband, I should be recognized as the bossu in the home, so that I should come meet, I mean, my food served on table with water, clothed in white raiment or whatever. I should be able to see that. When I don't see that, I feel like you are not giving me the respect of a husband. It's so that is the manifestation. So that feeling, but it comes from how you relate with somebody else, and you expect that the way you see yourself, somebody else should see you the same way. And when the person does not see you that way, you take offense. And I'm sure we'll be talking about deeper manifestations later on, but this is just the basic thing that I would say.
Exactly. So that false image of yourself you want to impose on others.
On others.
How does that manifest in the workplace too?
Okay, in the workplace, you know, you can, it's easily manifests in the environment when there's competition, okay? And you have a situation where you are in the office and you have colleagues working on maybe the same project, okay? Then competition starts creeping in, and the egoistic person would want to stand out and show that he or she is better than the rest, and start controlling the whole team. And he wouldn't take, or she wouldn't take, any advice from anybody, okay? Then if you try to even suggest something, he'll put you down, that, you know, you are wrong, this is how you go about it. And those are kind of traits that you see in an egoistic person in the office.
And just to go further, most office work is about teamwork. So with something like this, how does that affect teamwork?
So if your team members sees that you have that trait, most of the oftentimes you see that that person gets isolated. People would not want to go near you, and also if you have faults, nobody would even want to point it out to you, okay? And sometimes they do not want to even be in the same project with you. So as it gets worse, you see that a lot of people are drawing away from you, and you need to check that if you realize that some of these things are cropping up in their workplaces, okay? Example is, there was a team of young guys that came into the office to work, and those gentlemen tried to put everybody down, okay? And at the end of the project, he scored less because he couldn't get enough suggestions from the whole team, and it couldn't go well. So some of these things, when you realize that in the office people are drawing away from you, and you want to show that you know it all, you are full of yourself, then you need to try and see that no, something is going on. So then you have to check those things. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember, the discussion is about the ego in relationships, and we are not just talking about the marital, but we're looking at relationships across boards. But because this is family life, we would be touching more. And it's interesting that sometimes we transfer because it's part of you. You're leaving the house feeling you haven't been well respected, and then you get to the office and you think that because I didn't get that, I'm the
I have to get it at the office. I have to get it at the office.
At the office. Right. So I think we're talking about the deeper manifestations of it, and some of the emotions that
goes with
yes.
it. Okay, so I mean, I want to pick it up from where she she stopped. She talked about the something that sounded like the desire to aspire to get something. It is ego oriented. I mean, I want to achieve something.
Ambition.
It's ambition.
It's ego, yeah.
Ambition isn't negative. I mean, to be it's not wrong for me to want to achieve something.
Yes.
But where it becomes negative is, and that's why I said this negative manifestation has to do with how we relate it with others. So yes, I want to achieve something, but how do I do it in terms of how I measure up with others? So we are at work. She is a banker, so this is me, this is a fellow teller and all that. And I don't know if maybe I don't know much about banking, if the tellers have any forms of measurement and so I would want to measure higher than my colleague because I feel I am better than this colleague of mine. So we are both tellers, we are both working together, and I want to, if there's any mode of assessment, if my colleague gets 90, I should get 95, and that is what what it should be. So it makes me feel good. Yes, I am having an ambition. The aim behind it is not that I want to serve customers, I want to give off my best. No, the aim is to be better than Asumesi.
Exactly. And be noticed.
And be noticed. That is what the negative aspect of ego does. But there's that positive side that wants me to give off my best. That wants me to achieve that height. And so it is not, I mean, we are not saying it is wrong to desire to achieve the highest height. But having said that, I mean, let me talk about the fact that in this negative manifestation, what people fail to realize is that teamwork would help you to be able to do that. But because I want to be the one up there, the only one noticed, so that the rest are, so even if it's a teamwork, you will see that person trying to communicate that even though we are a team, I made the biggest contribution.
This is what I think.
No,
exactly.
Yes, as you said, okay, being who you are, or you want to achieve that target, there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you relate to those around you? Do you put them down? Or you encourage them also to come along with you? That is where we have to be careful, because some people, they know, oh, this my colleague is going wrong. I'm happy, let him go wrong so that I will be better than the person. That is where we need to check. Okay, yes. So because it's often said that knowing it all, you can't. There's no way you can know it all. Yeah. So you just need to try and learn from others, and you build up others too, and they'll all, I mean, have a teamwork grow better.
Okay. Before we get back into the family, if we go biblical, we hear of one classic example is the devil and his eye. I want to ascend into the heights. I want I. So it's sometimes when you start talking of I, people assume it's pride.
It is pride.
It's arrogance. Where do we draw the lines between being confident and being egoistic?
All right. Okay, you brought the Bible in, so let me sit up. Okay, yes. So this issue in the Septuagint is ego. I mean, it is I. Yeah. And the devil is talking about he wanting to ascend to a position that he well knows
he can't get.
Isn't his. And so to be able to get there, you see, so is the mode. To be able to get there, then I have to run down somebody. I can't get there. It is not my position. The one whose position it is there. But in order for me to get there, I have to run someone down. And that is the problem. So the line between ambition, aspiration, and negative, egoistic attitude is where you are aspiring for a position by running down another person. And that is the problem that we have in society. I mean, it's manifest in so many ways. So you will find a young man who feels that he is handsome. And because he feels he is handsome, everybody else must be ugly in order for him to be handsome. So that if others aren't ugly, he's not handsome. So there's a young lady who feels that she is the most beautiful. And in order for her to be beautiful, everybody else would have to, doesn't have to. I mean, for example, there was a wedding in which the bride got angry with a friend because the friend overdressed.
Of course. How do you outshine me on my wedding?
But you see, I am the bride. Now, if the person is able to have the self-confidence, I am the bride. No matter how you dress, I am the bride. That is self-confidence. Self-confidence should not run down another person. And so that, for me, that is where I will place the line. So I mean, in saying this, what I want to add is that it is important. Nobody should look down on himself or herself. Nobody should. So it's important to value yourself. You are beautiful. You are handsome. It's important to feel that way. You are intelligent. It's important to feel that way. But the moment you begin to allow that feeling or that confidence that you have in yourself, that self-worth that you have, to beside that, you are doing it in comparison with others, and you are looking down on others in order to feel important, then you are moving towards arrogance. You are moving towards pride, which is negative, which is not good for you. It's not good for any relationship.
Okay, in a whole relationship.
Okay, I just wanted to also comment on the Christianity part that you brought in. Okay, how we look at pride in our Christianity life. We should look at how Jesus came and even served. Okay, if we can recollect on the day of the Lord's Supper, okay, I think all the disciples were there, and Jesus had to wash their feet.
They were expecting others to.
Everybody, I'm sure everybody was just sitting there. Who's going to do this dirty job?
Yeah.
But he that came had to go so low, okay, to wash their feet and showed humility. Okay, so if we want to follow that steps, it will go a long way to help us in our relationship. That humility in there should guide us.
Okay. And it's instructive to know that you can be self-confident and humble.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't take anything from you. The fact that Christ could wash the feet of his servant did not take his messiahship from him.
At all. And he was confident about who he was.
So back to our homes.
Okay,
so does this thing play out?
With the egoistic situation at home, I read I read somewhere that ego is just 3-letter word, but it can destroy 12-letter word, that is relationship.
Wow.
So if you are not careful, just this 3-letter word, ego, can destroy a relationship, which is a bigger letter word, 12-letter word. At home, how do we control ego in our home, being a man or woman? Naturally, as we started, is the men that think they are the head of the family, and they have that kind of habits that they need to be, in quotes, worshipped, or they have that trait that, yes, because they are head of the home, everything should be perfect to fit their own liking. Okay, so if you're a man and you are not careful and you have that trait and you don't check it up, immediately you get home, everybody will scatter. Even your wife will find somewhere to hide because they hear your car, they say, hey, they'll give you a name that he's coming, because when you get in the house, who put this one here? So you people, you can't even keep a home clean. You bring your food, you open it, and you are just comparing everything, and which your wife will even not feel comfortable around you. So if you see those things cropping up in your marriage or at home, and the kids are always hiding when they see you, just have to sit up and realize that, what am I doing wrong? Because fine, we know you are the head of the family. Women, we are not competing with you. We just asking for a few recognition. Okay, so if you're a man, don't be too egoistic and be bossy and controlling your wife and run your wife down. You don't even talk to your wife. You don't argue without a fight. That's some of the signs that we need to check when it's going overboard. It's really that egoistic situation. 3-letter word destroy that 12-letter relationship.
Great.
All right.
Great. Now don't respond to the
no, I'm not responding to it. I'm not responding to that
but
at
there's
all.
something she raised that I want a follow up on. The role of insecurity.
All right.
You know, ego.
In fact, it is one of the major. It's a major cause. It's a major source of ego, of an egoistic attitude, insecurity, inferiority, and superiority.
Superiority complex.
Those things would make somebody to be egoistic. Let me explain. And of course, I alluded earlier that past experiences. So that this is somebody who, while growing, was not given any recognition. While growing, he or she was always the last, was always abused, was always went through the bottom, was always at the bottom. Now that the person is given a little power, the person wants to exercise all that power
He
that
missed.
that he missed. So there is that one.
Okay.
There is also the person who, because while growing, he was respected, he was always, you know, given all the top, wants to continue to be that.
As a right.
As a right. So there's this entitlement idea. There is that. So these are the aspects from experiences. But there is also the aspect from, like I said, the insecurity. I do not feel I am handsome enough to be married to this woman, and because of that, I have to make sure I control her so that I can feel good about myself. I don't think she is my match. I don't think he is my match. For that reason, I would have to, you know, lift myself up. And unfortunately, that person will not lift himself up in terms of, you know, capacity or whatever, but will do so in terms of the ego. Control. And that is where it is. So the person feels inadequate, feels insecure, and wants to be able to control and dominate in order to feel okay. But there is also the person who feels, and there's the complex that makes me feel that, look, I don't feel bad about myself. I feel so good about myself. In fact, I am so good. I am so handsome. I am so beautiful. I am so this. Therefore, you are below me. And so anything that I would do to ensure that you remain below me, I would do it. But there is another cause which she alluded to, the fact that the person is a male. And I say this without any apologies. When it comes to the family, the male has an ego higher than that of the female. The male in me, or in whichever male, wants to always feel in charge. And so he wants you to run all your plans by him, but he wouldn't run his by you. He wants every aspect of your life to revolve around him. And so you would see a man who would want to even control the wife's social media presence, control what the wife writes on her status, control the DP that the wife puts there. It is all born out of this male ego. Of course, some from insecurity, some from other things, but that is how it is. Apart from wanting to feel in charge, the male also wants to be the boss. I mean, like, feel like he
the boss already.
He's the yeah. So, no, but he wants to feel it. He wants to see it. You see, the biblical explanation of I don't want to really agree that the male is the boss.
It's like I am not sure she recognizes I am boss enough.
Yeah, but
so I must take instructions. I told you I don't like this. So what are you doing?
Exactly. No, you see, I must prove it. And for me, I mean, when we say the male is the boss, I see rather two co-equals, with one being put in charge of leadership, not necessarily the boss. Okay, and that leadership position gets into the head of the male, and he wants to, you know, you see a husband getting angry because he has come home and like you are saying, there is something that he thinks is not in place. The towel is on the bed. He can easily pick it up, but he would flare up. Why wouldn't you pick it up? Why can't you pick it up? There's no food in the kitchen. Why can't you get into the kitchen? I'm not preaching women empowerment, but all I'm saying
you have just preached women empowerment. But we'll take a quick break.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure by now, if you've been listening to the discussion, you can tell sincerely where you are as a person, because we are all relational beings. And we want the best of relationships. So I'm hoping that you are picking and identifying certain things that you would want to discard. When we come back, we would look at, yes, there's a problem I have identified. What should I do about it? So don't go away. We'll be right back.
So nim say ash chance on the buy and edin fio ha fi di imuno. So na shiju me di bebre ba ye di na de do so ne say yebeye anyunto afahye kese pa edikan okotonima da edikan first May 2021 e wa asha so dem ho a adwumede ni achemu mienu nopa nonkono na awia no mienu aso na to san fra adwumto bebrebe asha kwa asha singing band asha district no anyumtofo wo mu nyina so na to safre wo mu so for the small set to a champion ya sha so mpani for say brania to nyum nyame aye anyumto emu no me kai o say na mo so online radio so esa nam asha ezie church Ghana so Facebook live so so say brania to mu nyum ye fa nyame aye.
Hello, are you part of the 1000? Yes, you. Are you one? Hope Channel Ghana is inviting you, your friends and family to join the soul-winning trend in what is dubbed Hope Club 1000.
Hope Club 1000?
Yes, Hope Club 1000. It is a scheme designed to enable persons like you who want to support the growth of Hope Channel to donate a minimum of 100 cedis every month. If you cannot cross the ocean and the heathen land explore, if you cannot sing like angels and preach like Paul, if the master's call for evangelism is at the core of your heart, then this is an opportunity for you to contribute your resources for the advancement of the soul-winning agenda of the channel. Do you want to donate? Pay directly to the Hope Channel Momo account 0249193083 or Zenith Bank account number 6010190657 and be blessed.
I must be part of this train.
Well, welcome back. Backstage, we've been having some interesting discussions. We want to look at one other enabler, and we would look at, Pastor will touch on that, and then we'll also look at the issue of using religion as an excuse for ego, especially male ego in relationships, and the costs it's having on our relationships, whether husband, wife, father, son, all the manifestations thereof.
Yes, yes. So I was, I mean, I was talking when we had to go for break, and the next thing I wanted to mention was that the male will typically want to be what I'll call a superhero. That is the one who knows how to do everything. He is not an electrician, but when there's a problem, he wants to fix it. If he is unable to fix it, the ego is bruised.
So he's angry.
He's angry. And woe betides you if you suggest that, oh, let's call a professional. Let's call a professional. I mean, so you are looking down on me, you think I can't fix it. But yes, you are not a plumber. That's a plumbing issue. But the male wants to prove a point. He wants to, show that I am able to do it. There are many men in families who, for one reason or another, are unable to provide certain needs in the home. But because of that ego, they wouldn't want to ask from their wives who are capable of doing that.
Or if their wives do...
If their wife should attempt doing it, then, so you are trying to challenge me. So the person wants to, feel like he is a superhero who can do everything. But what we need to know is that we are human. We can't do everything. We have limitations. But so, I mean, for me, it is better that we understand ourselves, like you said when we were going on the break. You get to know yourself. Then there is a way for a solution.
Okay. The environment we grew up in and religion, how does it reinforce this whole thing? So, and it's not even just marriage. Sometimes I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and I think I'm better than all others. So in my relationship with other Christians, I don't
visit them in their churches. I'm better than them.
So how does religion or environment impact or influence all of those things, or worsen it?
Yeah, it's very, very true. That's because, as you said, as Christians, even to associate with other religions, Muslims and other religions that are around us, we think that we know it also. We don't want to even go closer to them, which is not good for us, okay? So if we really want to share our belief or attract people to us, we need to compromise and live with them peacefully. That makes us Christians. Okay, so as you said, as we're growing up, we know that this is the woman's job, this is the man's job, and it creeps in us, and you know the man is, the boy child is going to become something else, let's say a banker or something. Sometimes the girl child, when you get some nurse or teacher, you go and do it. So it's kind of give the man more priority than the woman, which now I think the check is going on, which would make those kind of growing up and also training neutralize a bit. So now in the everyday life of a Christian or in a Christian home, if love prevails, this egoistic situation tends to be minimal, okay? So we need to check that I have a wife. He's my partner. He's not there for me to control her. So we are there to maybe have a family together, raise kids together. Whatever we do in the house, the kids are learning. So we have to be mindful. And those egoistic, I know some people even don't want their wives to work. Why? Because of jealousy. My wife will go to work and somebody will talk to my wife, so hey, I've married you, stay home and don't do anything, I'll provide everything. Insecurity. You hear your wife, somebody calls your wife and the whole world should come to an end. Who is calling you? What did he say? And all those things showed insecurity, and it's also bounce back the fact that you don't even feel sure of yourself. You have to believe in yourself. Make sure that whoever is your partner, you trust the person. We are, as Doc said, you don't know it all. Seek advice. Try and have people around you who can also encourage you to make a very good decision about every situation in your life, and life will go on well.
Okay. If you have questions, please, the number is 055-968-0066. Send them to our WhatsApp, line, or you can contribute on our social media platforms, and we'll read your questions and contributions. Yeah.
Yes, I think she talked about socialization and the issue of how we use religion to do that. I mean, because of how we are normally brought up, we grew up thinking that there are certain things which are for certain people or certain genders or whatever. And for that reason, we move on with it, and then we put it in our marriages, and it affects us one way or another. And so that is a problem. But then the other aspect of your question has to do with how we use religion. And for me, it saddens me that we even make the Bible to say what it doesn't say. And I am still on my dear men. You know, yes, I mean, the Bible talks about the man being hurt.
The Bible talks about the wife submitting.
Submitting.
And the man loving the wife.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the love, we don't go there. It's submission to headship.
What we fail to do is that when we read Ephesians chapter 5, we start from verse 22, forgetting that there is 1 to 21.
You don't like that one.
You see, and we need to read it in context. In verse 21, Paul says, submit to one another, before he goes on to talk about wives submitting to their husbands, as they would submit to Christ, and saying all that. And of course, it is clear, wife, submit to your husband in everything. But goes on to tell the husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her.
I think the love even comes before the submission. So when you love, the submission...
Well, I would normally not argue, you know, it becomes a chicken and egg scenario. I mean, you don't wait for your husband to love you before you submit. Your role is to submit to him. Maybe one of these days we can talk about that. And for a husband, you do not wait for your wife to submit to you before you love her. Your role is to love. And what does it mean to love? What did Christ do? Christ left his position as God, came down to be a human. So if you love your wife, leave that position as boss and come to the level of your wife. That is true love. Because the Bible says, love as Christ loved and gave himself, sacrifice. What it means is that as a man, as a husband, if your wife says, stand here, you have to listen. And that is what it means.
You are going into I'm sure somebody's at home shaking their head. So what is this one saying?
Exactly. But then, I mean, well, I'm saying this to say that we sometimes use the Bible and we misinterpret it to suit our purposes. Yes, we agree. The man is the head. The man is the leader. But the principle in marriage shows that both the man and the wife are equal before God. And that should be clearly delineated. So you are the head, you are the leader, you are only the driver, and your wife is moving with you, and the two of you are partners to make it move. So we shouldn't allow that concept in religion, what we hear in some of our sermons in churches, at weddings and all that, to influence how we treat our spouses in the home.
Interesting. It seems we're hitting on the men. So George is saying that sometimes the ladies want to control, you see this issue of control the men because of their financial situations. Does ego play a part here?
Yes, the moment there is control. I mean, and you see, yes, sometimes it is the woman who is actually wanting to control in a relationship or a marriage. It is true. He's right. But what we were saying, what made us to hit on the men more is that there seems to be a gender, I don't know how to call it, but a gender-induced ego.
in men.
That makes it higher in men.
Yeah.
But we are not saying women
Just
cannot be egoistic
Yeah.
in a relationship. Some women actually control what their husbands do.
Yes.
Which, all that we are saying
We are even
includes that
worse.
one as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
anyway.
And
They're even
even
worse.
how it women and their relationship with their children, with the people who live with them,
Exactly.
with their co-workers. So it's not just a male thing.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
there,
no, no.
there is this thing. I mean, maybe she would, that when a male becomes a female becomes a boss, the male boss actually is more sympathetic toward a female, subordinate than a female boss. I don't know. It's just a notion. I do not know whether there is any research to it. But sometimes people say that.
Yeah.
And so women can also do same. And then you hear people say women are their own enemies and all that. Sometimes ego plays a role.
Yeah.
And it is simply, the moment you find a boss or a woman who has another person living with her and wants to treat the person as trash, treat the children, it is ego. The person simply wants to stand out at the expense of others.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a key identifying thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to give off your best. If you want to stand out, I think you should simply give off your best. But when you are doing it by attempting to silence others, then we have a problem.
Okay. So the disclaimer is that ego is not about males. It's a natural human trait. So please don't think we are bashing men on the show. It's a natural human trait.
Everyone has that kind of trait, but it depends on how you control it or get it overboard. Yeah.
Exactly. So having realized that, if I'm watching the show, I know I have an ego problem. What should I do?
Well, to start with, you need to understand yourself. As we've discussed, you really know that, am I controlling? Do I put people down? Do I disrespect others? Do I always want to be on top? Don't I want to help others? You have to sit down and take a self-check on yourself. That is the first lead. Without knowing that you have that problem, nobody can help you. So that's the first step you need to take. Take a self-check on you and see whether, do I have these traits? Do people come to me and advise that, oh, you should be patient, every time you should be patient, you didn't do this right, do you take those advice, or you just brush them and you always want to be right? Those are some of the signs that if you realize this in you, you need to check. And if you need help, then you need to listen to us now. Then you have to know that you can't know it all. That is the next step that you should know. You need help, you can get advice. What is more relaxing that you get home and you have something to discuss with your wife, or something that is bothering you, you call your wife, oh please, what do you think about this? How should we treat this? How should we do this? And everything will move smoothly. I just don't go and impose. I think we should do it. I think. Then you have to check all those things. So those are the few ones. I know Doc will add something.
Yes, I'll add some to it. Yes, so I realize that I have a problem. And we need to mention that everyone has that tendency. Because everyone has the me, the I. So once you are listening to us, know that you are likely to one way or another display egoistic tendencies. It's sometimes a mental thing. So tell yourself, I cannot always be right. And you need to tell yourself this, I cannot always be right. There are times that I will be wrong. And so when I see myself being always right, it is either I am the one making it so, or the other person I am with is simply a devil, or whatever. For that reason, the person is always wrong, 100% of the time. The truth is that you should let yourself know that you cannot always be right. And this is something that you need to remind yourself about. you should also remind yourself that you are not infallible. You have the tendency to make a mistake.
Yes.
So that you don't feel that, well, whatever I do would be correct. So there should be that tendency, there should be that understanding that I have the tendency to make a mistake. When you have that thinking alone can induce some form of humility in you. So that, oh, okay, so I have the tendency to make a mistake. It will make you feel humble about yourself. This is not to say you should doubt yourself. Whatever it is that you are doing, do it with all your might, but keep it at the back of your mind that you have the tendency to make a mistake. And remember that in case you make a mistake, it is just one mistake. It is failure when you stay there. Rise again and move on. So, but you should know that you have the tendency to make a mistake. Now, if you have these two things in mind, the fact that you can't be always right, the fact that you have the tendency to make a mistake, you will see the specialists. And for me, I mean, at this point, I would want to say that when it comes to issues of personality, the best specialist is Jesus Christ. Now, I believe that whatever kind of personality you bring to him, he has the ability to help you. All the disciples, the 12 that were close to him, each one of them had certain tendencies, certain qualities that was not good enough. It was only Judas who gave up on himself. The rest continued even with their inadequacies. And Jesus made them better. And so what I will say is that get close, pray about it. And there is power in prayer. Pray about it. God, I have this problem. I see myself having this problem. I see myself looking down on others. I see myself trying to pull others down in order to stand out. I see myself lording it over people when I know I shouldn't. Lord, help me. And let it be a genuine prayer.
Cry for help.
A cry for help. And I believe, and of course, you cry for help and then you work on it. And I believe that you will find help.
Okay. So remember, quick tips. You are not perfect. You are not infallible. We all make mistakes. So go easy even on yourself. And go easy on other people too. And of course, run to Jesus. But you have to realize first that there's a problem. There's a comment from Richie Nana Nketia watching from Takrady, and I smiled when I read Richie's comment. He says, "You're doing great. The male doctor, interestingly, is nailing males to the admiration of the female partners. God says that man will continue to be the head of the family, and I see nothing egoistic about it. If you don't play your part in love as the real head of department," well, I guess, are you in an academic environment, this head of department, then where lies your inbuilt leadership qualities? And this from Richard Nananketia. Well, sorry if that's what it seems, but I think the point Doc was making is we all are egoistic.
That's right.
But it is how you manifest it.
Exactly.
You shouldn't put people down.
And it's not like I am nailing males. I mean, I think it is not a secret that males have an ego. And so when I'm talking to women, I tell them, allow your husband to feel like he's in charge, even when you know he's not in charge. I tell women that.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
If he says it's green, okay, it's green.
Supposed to be in
You
charge.
move on. Tomorrow he will say, oh, okay, it was blue after all.
All right. Yeah. So it's not like I'm nailing male. I mean, the male. It is something that we know. That
because if there's no control, Doc, you know it can lead to abusive marriage.
Exactly.
And this thing crops in, and one day you come home, you just hit your wife, and it leads to something else. Yeah, it's there. So
and the point is that relationships are like teamwork. You need me, I need you.
It's a compromise.
Exactly. So if you keep the I, we watch you, okay, do it, let's see. And that's where the problem is. Now this is from Isifa Kelvin, and he says, how do I find out that my ego is at the negative side? I ask this because maybe that is my lifestyle and I'm comfortable with it.
Well, if your lifestyle is to aspire for higher heights, it is excellent. It's brilliant. It is negative when your desire to aspire for higher heights is achieved by running people down, by looking down on others. So that is it. I mean, yes, it is good, and I want to keep mentioning, it is good to aspire to look nice.
Yeah.
It's good to aspire to reach a certain height, but you do not do that at the expense of others.
People.
Like she said, that 3-letter word can destroy a 12, is it 12 letters?
Yeah, 12 letter relationship.
You know, so you don't allow that kind of ego you have to bring people down. And for me, that is the extent that when you go, you know that you are being negative.
Okay. Nana Efiabuachi says, kudos to the team, great discussion. And Peter Datson says, with women in position, as you mentioned, it's on the account of the fact that they normally, 80% of the times, especially in Africa, right from childhood, keep the notion that men are superior. Society corrupts in that sense, and once the women grow to be in position, that sense of I am more than the regular thing makes their rule a little different from the men who sees it normal from childhood as well as to the head. Okay. I think the point is trying to, you know, this thing about the oppressor now becoming the oppressed now becoming an oppressor. I have been oppressed for too long. So today I am in a position. So I am better off than the others. You know,
so it's more like a reverse of what we are speaking against.
Exactly.
And because it has been that way for long, we seem to allow that one to go.
Yeah.
And I am one of the people who is against even the reverse. I think that irrespective of what has happened in the past, and please, I do not think anybody is superior to anybody.
Exactly.
Even a child, I don't see myself as superior to my child, talk less my wife. And so nobody is superior. We are all human beings. If a knife cuts me, it is blood.
Same blood.
Same. It is just that physiologically, biologically, we have differences, but we are equal before God. If it was only females who were living on earth, Christ would have come to die for them. So we don't have anyone who is less human. And for me, that's the point we need to make.
Okay. So that thing is making suggesting that we should educate both boys and girls, so that this notion of superiority or inferiority,
I think it's getting better now.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, but if we don't take care, it may be reverse.
Yes, because you have
attention.
I mean, when we started take the girl child to school, so that I have aggregate 12 and a girl has aggregate 13, she will be taken. You know,
that's a discussion for another. That's a discussion for another day. We are almost getting out of time.
Oh my goodness!
And so yeah, the 1 hour runs very fast when you're having an interesting discussion. So I think primarily the point we've been trying to make is it's okay to be self-aware. It's okay to want to be the best, but don't run others down in the process.
Exactly.
Dog and Madam Lydia would give their concluding comments. We don't have any more questions. Okay, I think the one just popped in. Let me read that quickly, and then we'll take your concluding comments. This one says that, and this is from Ms. Alexander Kwashi Davoji, says, I believe hereditary and environment in which you were brought up contributes to personality traits that lead to one partner controlling a spouse. Self-acceptance and acceptance is important in relationships, of course.
Exactly.
And this is an excellent contribution.
Yes, thank you, Elder, for this. So, accept yourself. You are not perfect.
That's right.
Your concluding words.
Okay, so my concluding words. We've been talking about ego and ego in relationships. There is nothing wrong, and I want to say that there is nothing wrong to aspire for higher heights, but don't allow it to ruin your relationship. How do you allow it to ruin your relationship? You do so when you aspire at the expense of whoever your partner is, whether at workplace or in the family. So aspire for higher heights by improving on yourself, not by bringing down others.
Okay, so in conclusion, I would say the negative aspects of ego, I see it as a toxic, okay? And a toxic in the sense that I look at everyday life and I'm just trying to see it as a toxic in the sense that when you need to pass urine and you don't pass urine, it means you have a kidney problem. And the toxic in the urine can kill you. So that's how I see ego. Pass out that ego in you, okay? Otherwise, it will kill you. That's my conclusion.
Great. Well, pass it out, otherwise it will kill you. But the whole objective of relationship is to make life easier, to make life beautiful, and that is why in the beginning God created two people, because we are social beings. So don't let your ego destroy your relation. And I like the point Madam Lydia made. A 3-letter word can destroy a beautiful 12-letter word. But because you can't survive without other people, strive to let go of the ego, give it to Christ, and let the Holy Spirit help you to manifest positively who you are. And I will go back to the point that Davoji made, that let's accept ourselves for who we are, our failings, love ourselves, and then you can also admit that, okay, others are also not perfect. Until we meet again next week. And Madam Betty, I hope you're watching. So next week you'll be in your seat. So until next week, please keep safe. I want to say thank you to Dr. Josiah Ando and Mrs. Lydia Bediako Asari for this great discussion. And thank you too for watching, for sending in your contributions. Have a very good evening. Bye-bye.